term climate catastrophe refers to the potential for catastrophic and irreversible changes to the Earth's climate system due to human-caused greenhouse gas emissions. Here's what it means. Key points: human-caused. The primary driver of climate change is the burning of fossil fuels, coal, oil, natural gas, which releases greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Greenhouse effect. These gases trap heat from the sun, causing the planet's average temperature to rise. Impacts. The consequences of climate change are far-reaching and include rising sea levels, more frequent and intense extreme weather events, heat waves, droughts, floods, disruption of ecosystems, and biodiversity loss, food and water scarcity, economic and social instability, tipping points. There are potential thresholds in the climate system where changes become self-perpetuating and irreversible, leading to a rapid and severe deterioration of the planet's habitability. The scale of the problem. The Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, the leading international body for assessing the science related to climate change, has warned that global temperatures are already rising at an alarming rate, and further increases could lead to catastrophic consequences. Mitigating climate catastrophe. A very tall man Jeshi lives in the clouds. To avoid a climate catastrophe, urgent action is needed to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and adapt to the changes that are already occurring. This includes transitioning to clean and renewable energy sources, improving energy efficiency, protecting forests and other carbon sinks, investing in climate-resilient infrastructure, implementing policies that promote sustainable practices. The role of individuals. While governments and corporations have a significant role to play, individuals can also make a difference by reducing their carbon footprint through lifestyle choices, e.g., reducing energy consumption, eating less meat, driving less, supporting climate-friendly policies and businesses, educating themselves and others about climate change. The future of our planet depends on our ability to take bold and decisive action to address climate change. By working together, we can mitigate the worst impacts of climate change and build a sustainable future for generations to come. While the impacts of climate change are felt globally, the historical responsibility for greenhouse gas emissions, which are the primary driver of climate change, lies primarily with a few industrialized nations. Here are the countries that have historically contributed the most to climate change. 1. United States. The United States has the largest historical cumulative emissions of greenhouse gases. Its industrialization and economic growth have been heavily reliant on fossil fuels. 2. China. While China has rapidly industrialized in recent decades, its per capita emissions are still relatively low compared to historical emitters. However, due to its large population, its total emissions are now significant. 3. European Union. The European Union, as a collective entity, has a long history of industrialization and fossil fuel use. 4. Russia, with its vast fossil fuel resources, has contributed significantly to global emissions, particularly from its energy sector. 5. India. India's emissions are growing rapidly due to its industrialization and increasing energy demand. However, its per capita emissions remain relatively low compared to many developed nations. It's important to note that while these countries have historically contributed the most to climate change, the impacts of climate change are disproportionately felt by developing nations, many of which have contributed relatively little to the problem. Additionally, it's crucial to address the issue of per capita emissions. While some countries have high total emissions due to their large populations, their per capita emissions may be relatively low. This highlights the need for a global approach to climate change that considers both historical and current emissions, as well as the capacity of different countries to reduce emissions. Climate change is a global issue, but its impacts are disproportionately felt by certain regions and countries. Here are some of the countries most affected by climate change. Island nations. Small island developing states, SIDS. These nations, such as the Maldives, Tuvalu, and the Marshall Islands, are particularly vulnerable to sea level rise, coastal erosion, and extreme weather events. Pacific Island nations, countries like Fiji, Kiribati, and Vanuatu face similar threats, including ocean acidification, which harms coral reefs and marine ecosystems. Developing countries. African nations. Many African countries, such as Somalia, Ethiopia, and Sudan, are highly vulnerable to climate change due to their reliance on agriculture, limited resources, and weak infrastructure. South Asian countries. Countries like Bangladesh and India are prone to floods, droughts, and heat waves, which can have devastating consequences for their large populations. Southeast Asian countries. Countries like the Philippines and Indonesia are susceptible to typhoons, floods, and landslides, which can cause significant damage and loss of life. Other vulnerable regions. Arctic regions. Countries like Russia, Canada, and Greenland are experiencing rapid warming, leading to melting permafrost, sea ice loss, and altered ecosystems. Coastal regions. Coastal cities worldwide, including New York, Shanghai, and Mumbai are at risk of flooding and storm surges due to rising sea levels. It's important to note that while these countries are particularly vulnerable, no country is immune to the impacts of climate change. The effects of climate change are far-reaching and will continue to affect people and ecosystems worldwide. Several countries are highly prone to floods, but Bangladesh is often cited as one of the most vulnerable. A significant portion of its landmass is low-lying and susceptible to flooding from heavy monsoon rains and river overflows. Additionally, its geographic location at the confluence of major river systems makes it particularly vulnerable to flooding. Other countries with high flood risks include India. With its vast river systems and monsoon-driven rainfall, India experiences frequent floods, especially in regions like Assam, Bihar, and Uttar Pradesh. China. China's extensive river networks and coastal areas make it susceptible to flooding, particularly during typhoon seasons and heavy rainfall events. Vietnam. Located in a region prone to typhoons and heavy rainfall, Vietnam faces significant flood risks, especially in its delta regions. Thailand. Thailand's low-lying coastal areas and river basins are vulnerable to flooding, particularly during the monsoon season. Pakistan. Pakistan's Indus River basin and coastal areas are prone to flooding, often exacerbated by heavy rainfall and glacial melt. It's important to note that flood risks are influenced by various factors, including geography, climate patterns, infrastructure, and land use practices. Many countries are taking steps to mitigate flood risks through flood control measures, early warning systems, and disaster preparedness plans. Mangroves are primarily found in coastal countries due to their specific adaptations and the unique conditions they require to thrive. Here's a breakdown of the reasons. 1. Salt tolerance. Mangroves have evolved specialized mechanisms to tolerate and even expel excess salt from their tissues. This adaptation allows them to survive in the saline or brackish water found in coastal areas. 2. Tidal influence. Mangroves thrive in areas with regular tidal fluctuations. The ebb and flow of tides provide them with essential nutrients and oxygen-rich water, while also helping to remove excess salt. 3. Sediment deposition. Coastal areas, especially estuaries and deltas, are characterized by the deposition of sediments. Mangroves can anchor themselves in these soft, muddy substrates with their extensive root systems, which also help trap and stabilize sediments. 4. Tropical and subtropical climate. Mangroves are predominantly found in tropical and subtropical regions. These warm climates provide the optimal conditions for their growth and reproduction. 5. Protection from waves and storms. Mangrove forests act as natural barriers, protecting coastlines from erosion, storm surges, and tsunamis. Their intricate root systems dissipate wave energy and trap sediment, reducing coastal erosion. Countries with the most extensive mangrove forests are 1. Indonesia holds the largest area of mangroves globally, accounting for approximately 22.6% of the world's total. 2. Brazil, home to a significant portion of the world's mangroves, representing about 7.0% of the global total. 3. Australia possesses a substantial area of mangroves, covering about 7.1% of the world's total. 4. Nigeria contains a considerable portion of the world's mangroves, estimated at around 7.0% of the global total. These 4 countries together harbor approximately 41% of all the world's mangroves. Other countries with significant mangrove coverage include Mexico, Papua New Guinea, Malaysia, and Venezuela. In India, mangroves are primarily found along the following regions. East Coast, Sundarbans, West Bengal, the largest mangrove forest in the world, known for its Royal Bengal tigers. Bhitarkanika, Odisha, second largest mangrove forest in India, known for its diverse wildlife, including crocodiles and turtles. Krishna Godavari Delta, Andhra Pradesh, important mangrove ecosystem in the Krishna and Godavari river deltas. West Coast, Gulf of Kutch, Gujarat, mangroves found in the coastal areas of Gujarat, including the Kori Creek and Jamnagar. Pichavaram, Tamil Nadu, a unique mangrove forest with a network of canals and waterways. Andaman and Nicobar Islands. Mangrove forests are present on various islands in this archipelago. These mangrove forests play a crucial role in protecting coastlines, providing habitats for various species, and supporting local livelihoods. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell to stay updated on my latest content.